Welcome DTS leaders to this bit on how to set up your DTS room or your space, and for this tour on our space here at St. Francis DeSales Church. Here we're in our undercroft of the church. The Eucharistic Chapel is right above us, and I'm sitting here at the focal point for our room. I think it's important that every room have kind of a focal point for you as the leader to direct your DTS meeting. Here we have an old almost like a desk, table, some type of thing. I really don't know where it came from. Has a glass top since we're using candles. It's important to think safety if you choose to use the real candles. We have here our incense bowl. We have a statue of the Blessed Mother, one of Padre Pio. We keep our incense, our sometimes some of our medals that we're going to use. And Michael and I each have a candle here to read by. We also set the lighting around us. Even though we want it to be kind of cool and kind of dim, it's just about light enough that we could read without the aid of the candle next to us. But with this candle here, the easy grab, we have plenty of light to read.
When we started the Dead Theologian Society, we really didn't know if we were going to have a lot of people or not. So when we built our first room, or renovated our first room, we started out with these plastic garden patio chairs. Now you can get these at the local Walmart or whatever for probably about $5 or so. And I think we had like 11 or 12 of these all circled around a statue of Mary. So it's real easy to start with your seating with something like that, because remember, you're going to be in candlelight only, so people aren't going to be too concerned about what they see. Later, when we grew a little bit bigger, we asked for permission to bring pews in from our church, and we had a bunch of these extra pews laying around in our upstairs attic. So we brought those in and made our Dead Theologian Society room a little bit more like a chapel. So when you start out, don't feel too worried about the kind of seating you're using. Definitely have the teens sit on something other than the floor. It makes it a little bit less kumbaya. But as soon as you can move to something like a pew, it really brings in the church feel. So do it if you can.
Here we'll show you a very cool thing. When Michael and I were rummaging around in the old basement here, we found these original sanctuary lights that were in the church years and years ago before it was remodeled. We brought these out, had them bolted to the pillar here, and we actually even found the nameplate of the people who originally financed these sanctuary lights for our church. We keep them here to draw attention to the fact that we need to pray for these folks and their souls, and it's a nice little way to remember this particular family for their contribution to the church. Here we have our tabletop here of some of the essentials that you may wish to have at your Dead Theologian Society meeting.
This is the Dead Theologian Society how-to manual, which we send to all the chapters when they start. Generally, I try to keep this right here on the desk so that I can easily reference the saints that we're going to study, as well as some of the prayers that we use. The prayer of abandonment when we started off, the Our Father, the Hail Mary, of course, the St. Gertrude prayer in case there's some question there, and then certainly the enrollment in the brown scapular, which is used by our priest at the hoodings. And then at the very end, the divine praises. So there's the list of the meeting there and how it goes, the order of the meeting. It's good to have that just nearby in case we need it.
Here we have our reading candles. You can use a variety of candles. It can be a votive light. Michael and I found these at a real cool store with the skeleton ones, which is very cool. What's
important to notice about these kinds of things is that we want to buy back from Hollywood and from Satan anything that may seem ghoulish. Looking at candles that have skulls and bones and such on them, one person might think, oh, it's evil and it's occult-like, but actually the church has always venerated bones of the saints. So we want to take these things and Christianize the environment. If you see them, you want to go ahead and use stuff like this, as long as you make sure that you're clear about what you're doing when you talk to the teens.
Absolutely. We also have here on our tabletop the materials that we're going to be teaching and reading from. For instance, if we were studying St. Margaret Mary, we would have a booklet here of her sayings and things about her. We always keep close the Catechism of the Catholic Church because there'll be question and answers. We're never sure what we're going to be asked, so we try to give the teens the teaching of the Catholic Church at all times. If we don't know for sure what it is, though, we give them the grand answer, which is we don't know, but we will find out and get back to you next week. Over here we have our ambiance-enhancing supply of the DTS Uncle Vic incense, a special blend here that you can order from us. This is a type of a blend. It's actually a pipe tobacco incense with some other secret ingredients, all legal, of course. to set that mood. We call it Uncle Vic. I had a great uncle who used to sit and tell me great stories. And when he had that pipe going, I would sit at his feet for hours and learn all kinds of stuff. So we take a little bit of the Uncle Vic here and putting it on top of the charcoal here in our incense bowl, which is front and center. Having this here on your tabletop makes it easy for you to continue to keep that mood if you need it. Every once in a while we'll put a little pinch of the old incense on the charcoal, and again it sets that mood. It's good for the mood, good for the environment.
There's something about the Uncle Vic incense. We decided to use it because it reminds people of being cared for. Most people have a memory of a grandfather or an uncle or somebody that took care of them when they went on fun trips or when they were on certain events, birthdays, what have you. And the smell of the pipe tobacco incense generally brings around that sense of someone else taking care of you, as well as opening you up to kind of hear stories, which is what we're going to do, have stories of the lives of the saints.
It may also remind you of like a great professor, a teacher that you had, where you learned a lot, great learned men who taught you great things in life. Mike, why don't we show them the type of charcoal that we use?
Generally, most stores, most church goods stores have these sort of things. They're self-lighting pieces of charcoal, and all you have to do really is just get these. They light pretty easily with a match or two, and you put them in some sort of fire-safe bowl like this, and then you can just put the pipe tobacco incense right in on top of it and have a little bit of smoke like this. You don't really want to expose the teens to like so much smoke that they're gagging or anything, but you want enough that it just sort of fills the room with the scent, sort of like a potpourri would be in a bathroom somewhere or in a home.
We also have here in our table a holy water container. This one we have here is of the Blessed Virgin Mary. It's important to have this close by. Our priest comes down and blesses our medals with this.
As well as the scapulars. Yes. We have here a very special relic. This is a relic of the True Cross, which was given to us by a priest. And we use this for blessings when we have hoodings. It's done by the priest that comes down and installs the teens into the Dead Theologian Society by hooding them with the official prayers. And then they are blessed with this relic of the True Cross, which is very special.
Here we also have on the table our container holding the holy medals that we would give out on a certain evening. A container like this or something similar is advisable. It's easy to pass around. You can also have one of your leaders at DTS stand at the door to be able to hand these out to the teens as they leave.
And it looks kind of cool. Teens like this sort of thing as well as adults. We also have here on the tabletop our Dead Theologian Society chaplet. We would start off with the Our Father bead down here by the monstrance, and then we would do the 10 Hail Marys. We will have explained the mystery of the Rosary at the time, and then at the very end we have our other wooden bead, which is for the St. Gertrude prayer, which is for the Holy Souls in Purgatory, and that, of course, is our charism as a group of Dead Theologian Society members. Okay, so we're going to move a little bit from the tabletop now and talk a little bit about the background in our Dead Theologian Society room. We have here a real tabernacle. The Lord Jesus is not in residence right now where we'd be kneeling. This was given to us by the nuns that used to have a convent on the site. And what we like about this is that we have a proper place for the Lord Jesus if we're going to do Eucharistic adoration. Occasionally, when we have teens down here for All Saints, All Souls, we will bring the Lord in and we'll pray for all of our bloodlines, all of our relatives, people that went before us and those that will come after us. We also have special times during the year, or if there's an emergency, say a teenager has a family member, somebody that's very in big danger of being hurt or something like that, or in danger of dying, we can have Eucharistic adoration. So we have a proper place to repose the Lord should we need that. And that's something that if you can get it in your room, that'd be great, but it's not something that's mandatory. We also have a very nice crucifix. I think this is really key when you're talking about the saints to be able to point up here and talk about why they gave up the things they did, why they did the things they did, and often to be able to say this is who they were working for all the time. To be able to point to Jesus on the cross, particularly the suffering Christ rather than Jesus that's already passed away on the cross, can really help teens relate to their normal everyday sufferings and the things that they need to do. It's a little bit more of a connection to the saints, and really helps bring in the Catholic sense of the room. We have here candelabras as well. These we use generally for lighting so that we can read when we're doing our teaching, but we generally use our individual candles as we talked about for the close-up kind of stuff when we need to read something very close. Generally, when the room's lit only by candle, it's a little bit hard to see, so having the big candelabras can really help as far as brightening up the room in general.
Okay, we're going to go over here to a side section of our main area. This is where we keep our hoods. During a hooding, this whole rack could be full of hoods. It's an easy Yeah, but a little bit out of the way, but an easy grab when the hooding part of your DTS meeting takes place. Almost any type of rack or shelf type setup, tabletop will work. You just want a nice place to display and easily be able to grab the hoods during that part of the meeting. Right next to the hoods here, we keep our scapulars. This is a simple tabletop type design where the scapulars can already be laid out, so when I hand them to the priest, he can easily place them over the teenager's head. No unwrapping needs to be done. We also keep here an extra container of holy water, so our priest can come over here, bless the scapulars, and bless the hoods. Again, we highly recommend have your scapulars out and open and easy to grab and give to the priest.
Notice that we have, like, in our Dead Theologian Society room, we have these nice old stones. Our basement of our church is very old, and it kind of gives that catacomb kind of look to it. We're very fortunate in that aspect, but you can take almost any room and make it into a good Dead Theologian Society room. We've added the crucifix, obviously, for the Catholic presence. We have our icons as well. We've put here 3 icons of the archangels. We have St. Raphael, St. Gabriel, and St. Michael surrounding our crucifix, which just gives it a little bit more of a Catholic feel. Over here we have our slate signs. These are taken from the St. Benedict medal. They're the actual symbols that you will find on a St. Benedict medal when you do your teachings on St. Benedict. We found this was a very easy way to teach in kind of a darkened room by taking a big piece of slate here and just by using chalk, we put the image what's on the medal. One is on one side and then one is on the other. Those are just added dimensions to the room itself. There's a variety of ways to make your room a little more cool. We found some, these are old statues that came from the church. We originally found some that were about 100 years old that have since been restored and put up into the main church, and these are the ones that they replaced, and they make their home down here for now. So again, it's a good use for a statue. It's good for the space here. Over here we have a very old one of the Stations of the Cross that were here in the church probably 70 years ago. There was an incomplete set. They were damaged over the years, so we were able to salvage some. And again, it makes a nice piece for your DTS room. We have here a statue of the Sacred Heart, and this is a good example of the kind of thing you can find in many, many churches. Usually in the basement or in the attic somewhere, people have taken them out of the church because they might have gotten too old to use. And when I say that, I'm talking about like they're in a little bit of disrepair or what have you. And these can be repaired and refurbished to look really nice again. Or in a Dead Theologian Society kind of setting where it's only candlelight, you can have them back up again. And so generally, there's some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful old artistic kind of things that are out there. And they speak of old things. And the fact that they're a little bit damaged maybe is not so bad, because you're talking about time that's passed, and you're talking about being able to reach out and actually touch something that might have been in the church when elders of these teens were in the church. Think of a grandparent or an uncle or an aunt or even parents that may have spent time in front of an older statue praying for somebody to come back from the war, praying for a spouse to have a child, all sorts of different things that they would have prayed with the votive candles in front of these statues. Again, you want to always stress that we don't pray to the statues, but that we pray to the people that are alive and that they represent. On either side of our main area here, we have some beautiful icons here of the Mother of God with Byzantine-style hanging light, which is in front. Again, this is something fairly inexpensive that you can do to really make your room effective. This is a great example of an old wooden statue that we found in our parish. We are just very blessed in this respect. But if you dig around, like I said before, in the basements and in the attics of your churches, you can find these things everywhere. You'll notice that the paint is a little bit nicked, and there's a couple things about it that aren't exactly perfect anymore. But this is the kind of thing that really speaks to teens, especially when we're teaching about things that happened a long time ago, and we're talking about older things. So it's kind of neat to look around your churches and see if you can find these things. They make wonderful, wonderful points of interest, and they help the teens really reach out and touch the past. Now here's something that's very cool that's in a corner of our DTS meeting space here. This we call Saint Bonaventure. Basically it's a fake skeleton, but it looks very real, and these will be able to be ordered through Mike Aber or Blessings of St. Joseph as well. He's outfitted in a DTS hood. He's got the rosary there. This is to draw to mind
how quickly this gig of life goes by, and that all of us have a skeleton inside. This was inspired actually by the Chapel of Bones in Rome. Now in the Chapel of Bones, they have a very similar setup here with hundreds of their former Capuchin brothers who've now gone on to the Lord, and they're almost displayed in a very similar fashion. There's a great sign at the end of the Chapel of Bones, and it says to take a good look. As you are now, I once was. As I am now, you will be. And we incorporated this here above the skeleton that we have. And it's a great leveler for teens. It's something they can really grab onto and understand that this gig goes by quickly. So seize the day, make your decisions in the light of eternity, and make those decisions for Christ.
Another example of something that you can have for your Dead Theologian Society room, you can probably find these pretty easily in most places. It's just an old trunk. This one costs us maybe 20 or 30 bucks somewhere, maybe a garage sale or whatever. And basically, you can have things inside it like your boxes that hold your medals, hold your holy cards, your stuff that you're going to use for your Dead Theologian Society meeting. You may have your candles and such in here. We generally keep our hoods and our different things inside it as well. As we have the lighting sticks that we use for the candles, we have some of the charcoals and things that are in here. That way it's fairly self-contained, and it can be kept in your Dead Theologian Society meeting room without actually having to like drag things in and out all the time. It's sort of a nice, neat way to look at it, and then while it's here, while you're having your meeting, it's also old, so it doesn't stand out as some sort of strange thing that's very new and makes things feel out of place.
Now this is a little touch here that we think is very cool, and we suggest that you do this in some fashion or another. On this pillar here, close to where I sit and where we teach, I've listed all the different saints that we've studied over the years, and it serves a dual purpose. One is it's a great way to just keep record of what we've done here. And it's also a great reference point in case we think, hey, did we study that saint here recently? And we can look up on the wall and realize, actually it was 2 or 3 years ago, or maybe it was last week. So again, this is just a living kind of a lasting testament, a historical record, a way to archive the saints. We also have them up here to remember to pray for us.
This is an example of a small devotional statue. You can find these all over the place. Many families have these and have devotion to particular saints. What's nice is if you ask the teens if they have them, maybe their grandparents or family members may have a few laying around in attics somewhere. They're certainly wonderful little accents for the room that make people think in terms of saints, in terms of the church.
You may want to have a cool old stand here to keep a couple of your prayers close by, or a booklet. We have some of our prayers here that Father will read when he enrolls teens in the Dead Theologian Society. We also keep here a book. It's an old leather-bound book where teens actually can sign in once they are hooded. And we keep a record of which saint we studied, the names of the teens. It could just be a good way to archive your particular chapter. This stand here can easily be removed, set to the side, or brought in the front if you want to teach from it on a given evening.
One of the other things that we use during all Dead Theologian Society meetings at the beginning and the end is Gregorian chant. A simple boombox that's hidden somewhere can be used to have this music played during your meetings, particularly at the beginning and at the end. I generally use a remote control so I can turn the volume up and down if needed during the meeting, or perhaps even turn it off. This can be done very, very simply. You don't have to necessarily have remote controls and such, but it's just a nice thing to add to the ambiance of the room.
Now this is something that we simply cannot stress enough. With the use of real candles, which increases the ambiance, it also increases the responsibility to make sure that we are fire safe. Every DTS chapter should have a workable fire extinguisher and at least 2 people that know how to use them. We also have a backup container that would contain sand or water or something as a quick or a fail-safe. Having a fire blanket nearby too could be very good. It's also important to make sure that you have fire exits so that teens could get out quickly in the unlikely event of an emergency.
As we said before with the St. Benedict medal, slate and chalk is a real easy, quick fix. It looks nice because it looks old. You can find these old slate tablets. Many old buildings have them because they were used for roofing for years. But you can write nice messages on there. You can write particular words by saints. You can have all sorts of prayers and things that are done on those. Very easy decorating tip that make the room look old and cool.
Keeping with our theme of safety, at the end of a meeting, after the teams have left the room and it's time to extinguish the candles, make sure you do what we call the glow test. After all candles are blown out, we turn the lights off and we have at least 2 people stick around down here to look for the slightest indication of a candle that may be still lit. Make sure that all candles are extinguished, do the glow test, keep your churches safe.
Although most of our Dead Theologian Society meetings are done by candlelight only and conducted by candlelight, we want to have good electronic overhead lighting situations. That way, should there be a problem or some sort of emergency, you can easily reach over and get a light switch and get people out quickly.
And it's good for the glow test.
That's right.
It's important to keep your catechism and a good Catholic encyclopedia close at hand. That way you can go deeper into things like purgatory, things like Sacred Heart, things like Jansenism, the heresy we talked about. Just a lot of questions that may come up. Questions about saints and about what canonization means, what being declared venerable and blessed, a lot of these things. So having those resources, a catechism, a good Catholic encyclopedia, of course the Bible, there's just a vast amount of very, very solid aids when these questions come.
Most of those should be in the materials that we sent to you as far as new chapters starting up. We'll have a whole list of written resources that we use, as well as many of the internet resources. And those are always changing. So do take a look at those, and hopefully you'll find everything you need to know on every saint that we'll study. Thanks.
Now that we're near Halloween, though, there may be some shops that have like little Italian man costumes and big orange wigs. But again, that's your call if you decide to get those. That's probably not a good idea.
Bye.
Bye. God bless.